Hello, I'm Steve Maskery and welcome to Workshop Essentials. Lovely job, excellent. Very pleased with that. I've got a bit of a problem here and it's to do with the backs. I need to route a tongue on there to fit into my grooves, and whilst I'm quite pleased in general of the way that these backs have come out, they're not perfect, and in particular they're not flat across the width. I can see that there's a gap of over 1 millimetre, maybe even 2 millimetres, maybe not 2 millimetres, but say a 1/16 of an inch for argument's sake. And that means that if I just try to route that on my router table, as well as the issue of it not being a flat surface on the table, it means that I'm going to end up with a shoulder which is bigger at the ends and not so big in the middle. When I discovered that these backs were not flat across their width, not perfectly flat, I thought, I can't really route a tongue on that until it is flat. So I've glued in some scrap in between the two lippings. And that's meant that the back is now nice and straight. And I've been able to route my first shoulder on this, and it's come out beautifully. I mean, that's what I want. It's 3/8 of an inch deep, and it's going to fit into the bottom rail like that in there. So I've got a new cutter in there. It's nice and sharp. Let's see how it goes. Now I've stopped short because I don't want to get any breakout of this solid lipping, and that's going to be removed anyway. In fact, I've got right up to the end on that. But that is lovely, And I'm going to do all of them with the first shoulder and then worry about the other side of it afterwards. Pum, 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 pum. Good grief, I'm using a handsaw and it's coming out straight. Whatever next. That's good. It's one of the hottest days of the year. It's 28 degrees Celsius in the workshop and I'm sweating and I've got far too many tools out. The trouble is I'm using them all at the moment. I'm fitting the back assembly. So I've done one chair back completely. This is pretty much finished really in terms of assembly. This is going to have an upholstered panel in it, and that's what it looks like at the back. And I'm very pleased with it actually, but it was a pain to get this together, it really was. There are no straight lines. There's nothing to reference against. So it's all a question of sort of getting it right by eye and judging it and then assembling it. And I've got some stainless steel screws in here, which here we are. They're 70 millimetres long. They go in like that. And these are 4 millimetres. And I've had to pilot at 3.5 millimetres for a 4 millimetre screw. I thought I'd get away with 3 millimetres, but it's actually ruined 4 out of the 10 screws that have gone in here. So I was surprised that I'd got to go that big, but it works better that way, and it's still rock solid. And if screws were good enough for Sam Malouf, they're good enough for me, I can tell you. So, having done that, I've learnt a lot about how not to assemble it, actually. So I'm doing it sort of little bit by little bit. The first thing to do is to fit the bottom rail to the bottom of the back panel. So that goes in there like that. And the problem is the clamp. I mean, the fit is actually quite reasonable. I've got one that's, close but no cigar. The others are okay. But this really needs clamping. And what do you clamp against? If I put a clamp across here like this, all that happens is that this panel springs. It just bends, it just collapses. So I've worked out how to do it with a ratchet strap, and it takes a bit of time to get right. So here's one I did earlier. And so the ratchet strap goes around the whole thing, but because of the angle of it, it pulls the bottom rail closer to one edge than the other, and it opens up a gap at the back. So I've had to clamp the strap itself so that at the business end where the clamping is being done, it's actually clamping straight down onto the end of the back panel. And that's worked quite well, actually. I can look at that, and I can see glue squeeze out all the way along. So I'm happy about that, really. I've got too much stuff on my bench. You're a messy worker, Maskery. Something's not right. I'm counterboring the outside faces of the legs, and I am being very careful to make sure that I have got the outside faces. I've marked green is starboard and red is port. So I've got my template again, and I've drilled that where I want the holes, 3 for the bottom rail, 2 for the top. I've got this top one a bit off centre actually, so I'm having to adjust that as I go. But it's going to look like that when I've finished, 3 and 2. So the template goes on the leg, lined up at the bottom, and just poke through with an awl. 1, 2, 3. And at the top where I've got this one a little bit off centre, I'm just pulling it back a little bit. And then I can check that's actually about right. And I'll just make it a bit easier to see with a pencil. And then it's over to the drill press. Whew. Well, that's 60 holes drilled twice, once for the counterbore and once straight through. So now we can start putting some backs together. Well, it's time to do some assembly, and having done one the hard way, I learnt a lot about what can go wrong and better ways of organising the assembly. So I've got my back with the rails attached held in my vise, and this is quite tricky to do, so I've got blocks to fill in the curves, so this is quite sturdy, and I've got a rail support, roller stand support here. So one of my legs is going to go on there like that. And to that end, I've got a pilot hole which I have created using my horizontal borer. I made that about 18 months ago or something for another project, and I've had it in my head a long time. It's brilliant. It's really excellent. I wish I'd made it years ago. So if you think about a horizontal mortiser, have a look at the one that I made. It's really good. And of course, there's a plug. There are plans available on my website. But it really is excellent. So that is going to be my datum position, because there are no straight lines. There's nothing to work from. So we create one. So I need a stainless steel screw and a washer and some wax, of course. And I'm just going to put this in a little bit to start with, not the whole way. That'll do. And then we get this end right. Now I can feel that this isn't. If I get this hole in the middle, then this isn't quite right at the end there. So I'm going to go for getting one in, and then I'll get the other one right, and we'll make things right by adjusting that end, which is why I didn't put that in all the way. So let's do this one. That feels in the middle to me. I've got 2 drills here. I've got a 3.5mm Fay-Mag drill. It's fantastic, and so it should be. It's jolly expensive. but I've got the set of them. Cost an arm and a leg, but they're superb. I've also got a long series twist drill to go further than that will take me. It's rubbish, absolute rubbish. I spend more time cleaning out the flutes with a pin than I do actually drilling. And the difference is that's part of a set that cost 160 quid, and these are 10 for £4.99 from Toolstation. Rubbish. Let's drill that to start with. Use the good drill to start with. Just move it out of the way and go as far as I can. Right. So now we can get that one screw in there before we have to worry about its mate. Right, now, that other one isn't in the centre, so we'll take this out and adjust it so that it is. That feels good. That feels good there. So clamp it in place so it doesn't move. And drill that. Look, and it comes out. That, I have to dig it out with a pin. Rock solid. Right, okay. So, that belongs in, let's get a new one. These are flat-headed screws, flat underside pan-head screws, but a washer increases the surface area by a few more square millimetres. So, and they're all stainless, of course, because they're going into oak. But you guessed that. Right, now that top is right, and the bottom isn't. But there's a little bit of wiggle room, isn't there? So, having got that, we can now just put a little bit of tension on it to get that right. And now we just do the same on the other side. So we'll put that on there like that. Get me a centre screw installed. Not too much. Now, this is feeling very good already. I'm pleased about that. Very pleased. Yes, there's no jiggery-pokery to be done here on this one. Not much. A little bit. A little tiny bit. Start with that one. Right, okay. Same again. Right, we'll have a look at it, shall we? Oh, that is very nice. Right, one twisted one, two that are perfect for all intents and purposes. And just looking at the joint here at the top, because I was a bit worried that it wouldn't be tight, it looks perfect. It looks absolutely perfect, front and back. There are no gaps. I don't need to squirt any wax in there. That's what I want. So, 3 down, 3 to go. That's going to look very nice. It's time to glue up the front rail assembly. So I've got a pair of legs. They're all They've all been paired up, mainly for colour. These are two of the two lightest, actually. And there's going to be a front rail sits in between them. And I've got to get this the right way round because the wall thicknesses aren't the same. They were meant to be, and they weren't. So I want the thick wall facing the front of the chair. So they're going to go in like that. And I'm set up with a clamp, some water, paper towels, and my glue. Now, these are all homemade dominoes, which are just cut from the scrap oak left over from the legs, planed them up, rounded over the edges on the router table, and then cut them off on my crosscut saw. So, once we start, of course, it's a race against time to get it all done, especially before it sort of starts to go off, especially on a warm day like today. Not as hot as it has been, but hot enough, thank you very much. So we want some glue in there and in there, nicely spread about, and in the end grain of here. I know it's not going to stick on the end grain, but it seals it, and it's a good way of making sure that you've got proper contact. I love this mallet. This is fantastic. If you've not seen it, it's Trigger's mallet. Have a watch. It's fantastic. I love it. Really do. Oh, nice. Nice, very nice. That's Steve. That'll do. Very nice indeed. Right, now we just have to check for square and wind. Check my diagonals. 626. 626, lovely. And then my winding sticks. Now this one is in wind. Can you see one end is disappearing before the other? So we need to adjust that. That wants to go that way. And as we go down, that white strip disappears at both sides at the same time. No wind. Excellent. Right. So put that somewhere safe until the glue goes off. Now I'm sorry, but there's no way that I can film a glue up. There are too many things to worry about without worrying about cameras as well. But this is my first glue up. And I did a dry run with the tenons without any glue, and it just went together. And I have to say I was a bit gobsmacked because although I'd obviously been very careful to make sure that everything was cut accurately, I did expect to have to do some fettling. And I've done none. I've simply put the glue in, put the tenons in, and clamped it up. And it is right. It doesn't wobble. And if you look down the winding sticks, you can see that it's nice and square and true. So I am really dead chuffed. So this is 1 down and 5 to go. Join me next time when we'll be doing the upholstery.